Want to see what happens when you start drinking at 6 in the morning? Keep watching. Matt was towing a trailer full of wooden fence posts when a Ford Explorer hopped a curb in reverse before plowing into his 2017 Jeep Wrangler. The Explorer driver claims he got his foot stuck under the brake pedal, evidently with his other foot smashing the accelerator. While in reverse, the Explorer bounced off a Cadillac before jumping the curb, destroying a section of wooden fence, and finally slamming into Matt's Jeep. He continued flooring the gas for 30 seconds before finally turning off the car. For his part, Matt had seen the out-of-control SUV and had stopped, but he had no time to back up, especially considering that he was pulling a trailer at the time. Matt says the guy was very apologetic and couldn't figure out how his foot had gotten stuck like that, but Matt has a theory about that. After the police arrived, the Explorer driver was arrested for driving under the influence. Matt sent his dashcam footage to the other driver's insurance provider and they paid to have the Jeep repaired after accepting responsibility. Matt says the guy's wife was way more upset with him than he was. "We're all just glad the Explorer's steering wheel was turned to the left and not to the right. There was a kid's birthday party happening in the park on the other side of the parking lot when this all went down." Peyton was on his way home when he watched a Dodge pickup truck hydroplane and lose control. The truck spun and collided with the median barrier before coming to rest in Peyton's lane, where he had no chance to stop even after slamming on his brakes. The accident did $53,000 in damage to Peyton's 2-month-old truck and the trailer he'd been pulling. At first, the other driver's insurance provider refused to pay for the damage, but after he sent them the dashcam footage, the process went a lot more smoothly. Doug was driving down the Capitol Beltway in Maryland when his Subaru Forester was pit maneuvered by a Mercedes in his blind spot. Doug's car spun and slid across 2 lanes and into the guardrail. His airbags deployed, and together with his seatbelt, they protected him from any injuries. The police responded, and at first, Doug was so shaken up that he forgot he'd captured the accident on his dash cam. The other driver admitted fault, but their insurance provider told Doug he'd have to work with his own insurance provider because they wouldn't give him anything until they'd gotten a claim for the guardrail. Fortunately, Doug's insurance provider paid him promptly, and he was able to buy a new Subaru just a few days later. This submitter was headed home after working his shift as a police officer when a Mustang Mach-E flew past him, clipping his side mirror and being chased by a marked cop car. Since he was still in his police uniform, the submitter followed the chase and helped the other officer make the arrest after the Mach-E wrecked into the back of a truck. The driver had just left a bar after spending the evening drinking with friends, and the car he wrecked was brand new. Juanito was driving in Chicago when the driver of a black GMC SUV pulled into his lane. He flashed his high beams at her, but she didn't budge, so he just went around her. Evidently, this outraged the GMC driver, who proceeded to follow Juanito, prompting him to turn onto a side street to avoid a confrontation. The GMC driver followed Juanito anyway by reversing and turning down the same street, then cut off and brake checked him. When he finally got around her before a traffic light, she drove up onto the sidewalk to get next to him. She proceeded to flip him off and yell at him, which he couldn't understand through his windows, while another young woman in the back seat waved a baseball bat at him. She then tossed a drink out of the window before driving off. Juanito ended up following her inadvertently since he was headed the same way, and she brake checked him one more time before he swerved around her and drove away. He drove to a nearby police station and waited a few minutes in the parking lot before heading home, just in case. Steven was on his way to pick up an Uber rider in Kansas City, Missouri. Yes, there is a Kansas City in Kansas and another different Kansas City in Missouri. Don't at me. Suddenly, a black pickup truck came flying into the road in front of him with police hot in pursuit. Once he realized what was going on, Steven got out of the way fast. He watched several more cop cars join the chase, but he never did find out why the pickup driver was running. Steven says he never misses an episode of Wham Bam Tesla Cam or Wham Bam DashCam. Thanks, man! Kaylee was running errands when she followed another car through an intersection after waiting for the light to turn green. Fortunately, she left enough space between her car and the Hyundai to allow another car to squeeze between them as it ran the red light. Thankfully, no accident occurred. This submitter wasn't so lucky. He was planning to turn left on his way to work, but he turned right instead when he noticed a car that wasn't stopping. He got wham-bammed by a work van, and he was sore for a month, but otherwise uninjured. 3 months later, he's still waiting for the other guy's insurance provider to pay for his totaled Nissan Altima. Steve was driving on a Belgian highway when he watched the driver of a van attempt to bypass traffic and get a taste of instant justice. The driver claimed he was doing this because his door was open. Yeah, the cops didn't get it either, and they gave him a ticket for pulling this little stunt. Matthew had just crossed from California into Oregon on his way to Portland when he experienced not one, but 2 close calls with oblivious drivers. First, a pickup driver nearly sideswiped him while changing lanes. And then, the driver of an SUV did the same thing. Fortunately, Matthew was able to dodge them both. Back in Houston, this submitter watched an SUV go flying by him at high speed. As the vehicle rounded a bend, it spun out before flipping over on its roof. A teenager pretended to pass out as the submitter drove up. He called 911, and responding police arrested the driver after determining that she was intoxicated. In Texas, driving drunk is a felony if you have a child for a passenger. The driver, who was the child's mother, wouldn't tell the cops who the kid's next of kin was. So he was taken away by Child Protective Services after being checked out by firefighters who determined that he was uninjured. Sam spotted a bad Tesla driver while waiting at a red light. Watch this spot. A Model 3 cruised right through the red light, forcing another driver to slam on their brakes. Wham bam, come on, man! Charlie's also in Canada. A driver in a turn lane wasn't paying attention and turned in front of another car with a green light. Charlie stopped and made sure everyone was okay before giving a copy of the dashcam footage to the victim. Both drivers were shaken, but otherwise uninjured. Dusty was driving along when he passed a semi-truck. As they both approached an intersection, he assumed the truck driver intended to turn left at the light. Instead, he nearly sideswiped Dusty's Peugeot, forcing him to brake. Dusty contacted the company that owns the truck and gave them the dashcam footage and the driver's information from the side of the truck. To their credit, they immediately fired the driver. They even went so far as to report the incident to the police, resulting in the driver losing his license for 3 years. Dusty is just glad he decided to invest in a 360-degree dashcam system. Raven was driving down a California road when a herd of wild donkeys decided it was a good time to cross the street. That's something you don't see every day. Subscribe and I'll see you next week. Do you have a dashcam video that you want to share with us? Please send the video together with a description of what happened using the link in the description below.